We at the CPR Worldwide Media Network, your constitutional patriot radio station, would like to take a moment to reach out to a portion of our listening audience, to the NSA, the mainstream media, to liberals masquerading as conservatives who would like to see us off the air, and to those who are spinning their wheels trying to take us down. We have a special message just for you. At the CPR Worldwide Media Network, we're happy to be your 24/7, 365 obsession because, while you have your little panties in a wad, we're speaking truth to power, telling real conservatives what you don't want them to hear, the truth. And we're not gonna stop. Now then, back under your collective bridges with the rest of your fellow trolls, and oh yes, thanks for listening to CPR.
This is a station identification moment. You're listening to CPR Worldwide Media, a division of CPR Media Network, coming to you live right across the planet. Check out our website at www.cprworldwidemedia.com and our Facebook page at facebook.com/CPR Worldwide Media. This is CPR Media Network, coming to you live from the USA.
Well, looky here, a new listener. Hey, this ain't your little sister's radio station.
Listening to Right Side Patriots on CPR Worldwide Media.
We the people.
And Right Side Patriots is on the air. Craig Andreessen from the National Patriot with Diane Sori from the Patriot Factor. Welcome to the show on a Wednesday, live as we can be. Diane, how are you doing?
I'm doing real good, and it's so great to be broadcasting again from my own office instead of on the road. It's easier.
Yeah, it's got to be easier than trying to do it from a hotel or from a strange house or
or
apartment or a car.
car.
You did some on the road from the car, and I was impressed. I got to tell you.
Yes, I did, but you know what? When the truth has to get out there, we have to get it out no matter where we are.
Breaking news is breaking news, and when it happens, we're ready.
Absolutely.
We got a great show planned for you folks today. Jake Danishevsky, an old friend, former guest on the show, is going to be back. If you've forgotten, Jake was actually born in Ukraine. And then he and his family immigrated to the United States, became proud U.S. citizens. But, Jake's still got a lot of family, a lot of friends over there in Ukraine. And he's going to come along a little bit later in the show today to kind of bring us up to speed on what's happening over there. It's a mess, Diane.
It's an absolute mess. Ukraine was a sovereign country. It was a free country. And now it's trying to be taken over again. But we're going to get into that with Jake and also between Craig and myself a little later in the show.
Yeah, we've got Israel to talk about. Anything going on in Israel right now, or is it pretty quiet?
No, as we're speaking right now, I have reports coming in from Israel that they are working at this moment to destroy every one of Hamas's tunnels. Every single one will be history when they're done.
That's a lot of tunnels because Hamas is like a bunch of little Muslim gophers.
Yes. And these tunnels, I've seen pictures of them. A man can stand upright in them. They just run down these tunnels. There are 26 major tunnels and God knows how many auxiliary tunnels, but they're going to take them all down. They're reinforced with concrete. They have arches, the whole 9 yards. These are very, very sophisticated tunnels. And what's even more amazing, guess who they used to build the tunnels?
Well, I don't have to guess. I know they use children, little Palestinian children. And
Yep.
the reports that we're getting is that something like somewhere between 160 and 170 of these tunnel building children died in the course
Yes.
of building those tunnels.
Yes. Not only, do they use human children as human shields, now they use children as their little gophers. These people are disgusting. That's all I can, that's the polite way of saying it. Um, my friend Pamela Geller likes to call them savages. You know what? She's right. Using children to do your dirty work is probably one of the lowest things somebody can do.
Well, we've got a lot to discuss today, especially when it comes to Israel and Ukraine. Jake Danishevsky will be along in a little bit, but Diane, let's get into it today and see if we can't reach out and contact our moderate Muslim intern, Mohammed Hussein Obam, from deep inside his cave in the mountains of Tora Bora for today's Quick Hitters. Mohammed! You have the Quick Hitters today? Are you going to send them to me today, too?
Give him a break. He's revving up the camel.
Jeez. Okay, one more time. Oh, Mohammed, send them over. And we got him, and I got him today, too. Saturday he didn't send them to me.
I know. He sent them to me.
I guess maybe I was making fun of his girlfriend, the one humper.
That's true.
And he was a little upset with me, so he didn't send me the Quick Hitters, but I've got them today.
I know. For him to send them to a woman, I mean, that took some balls there.
Yeah, well, it was his mistake because actually you've got balls.
I do not.
Well, you
I
do
have
when it
guts.
comes to your articles, let me tell you.
I have guts and courage, but I don't
Yeah.
have balls.
Well, I'm talking in the figurative sense, it's not literally, but I mean, look, you read Diane's blog, on a daily basis over at patriotfactor.blogspot.com. And then you tell me I'm wrong. I mean, come on now.
One of the reasons I share with you the designation as a possible threat to national security. And guess what? Like you, I'm damn proud of it.
There you go. Yeah, I'm still waiting for my bronze plaque, by the way. But
Oh, okay.
well, let's see what we got here today. Wow. Really? Okay, well, first up today, Diane, there's been a jury award to Jesse Ventura. Now, I got to say, first of all, I used to like Jesse Ventura until he went all 9/11 truther.
Yes.
And then he just kind of, I don't know, he lost his marbles. Maybe too many body slams in the ring as a wrestler or something. I don't know, but he sued the widow of Chris Kyle.
Yes.
America's most prestigious sniper, former Navy SEAL Chris Kyle, sued her over what Chris wrote in his book, and a jury gave him $1.8 million yesterday.
Yes, and he intends to keep it to make a statement. This man is now probably one of the most hated men in America. First of all, he lied about an American hero. Second of all, now he's trying to hit the cash cow on the death of an American hero. This man is despicable. He's disgusting. And whatever credibility he had is now gone, and rightfully so.
I hope Ventura's proud of himself, through all of this. I mean, he sued the widow of an American hero and took $1.8 million away from her.
Yes. I mean,
Look, I wasn't
that's
there.
robbery. But you know what? Where the hell was the brains of this jury? Where
Well,
was their brains?
I wasn't there in the bar. Chris Kyle in his book, talked about being in a bar with a bunch of Navy SEALs, and there sat Jesse Ventura bad-mouthing the SEALs, calling them all sorts of names. And Jesse himself used to be a Navy SEAL. And calling them all sorts of names and things. And from what Kyle said in his book, he went over, told Ventura to shut the hell up. Or there'd be consequences. Ventura shot his mouth off again. And according to Chris Kyle, he decked him. Right there in the bar, just decked him, laid him down on the floor. Well, Ventura says it never happened, says Chris Kyle was lying about it, and I wasn't there. I don't know what happened, okay? But I'm not sure that suing the widow of Chris Kyle is the way to get your good name back.
First of all, he never lost his good name because only certain percentage of the population read the book. Those of us that support our military 100%, many of us read the book. But in the book, Chris Kyle never defamed him in any way. Is Jesse Ventura so tenuous in his manhood that he had to go after the widow of this American hero over a sentence in a book written at least 5-6 years ago? Is this what this man had to do to get back his honor and his manhood? Well, if you ask me, he's a miserable excuse of a man.
Well, I just wonder how he thinks that's working out for him today. I mean, he's $1.8 million richer, but he was his big complaint. The reason he filed a lawsuit and went to court over this is he said that his name was sullied by Chris Kyle. Now, let's just say it was to some extent, okay? Because
did you ever hear his name mentioned in a bad way in regards to this book? No, he brought it up. He's the one that sullied his own name.
I'm just saying, let's just say for the sake of argument that somehow Chris Kyle sullied his name. And I will say that in some ways he may have, because I was already not a Jesse Ventura fan because of his 9/11 truther crap.
Right.
Okay? But after hearing, from Chris Kyle's book that Ventura was in the bar and he was sullying the reputation of Navy SEAls, I thought, well, what a piece of dirt. Who what former SEAL would go in and do that? I lost even a little bit more respect, if that was possible, for Jesse Ventura. Now, there are those out there who would have thought, well, maybe it happened, maybe it didn't, no big deal, no harm, no foul. Now that he's sued the widow of Chris Kyle and taken $1.8 million away from her, how restored does Jesse Ventura think his name is today?
Well, you know what? He'll join the annals of all the other people that try to capitalize off the death of others. And that's pretty damn low. And I don't think personally that Ventura will ever recover from this. He was a loon with his 9/11 conspiracy theories. Now he's just a miserable excuse of a man to capitalize off the widow of an American hero.
Well, congratulations, Jesse Ventura. You successfully sued a man who could not stand there and defend himself. So, way to go.
I know.
Pathetic. It's pathetic.
It is pathetic.
Speaking of pathetic, look what's next here. Old
Miss
Lois
Pathetic
Lerner.
herself, yes.
Yeah, Lois Lerner's back in the quick hitters today because apparently not every email she was a part of has been destroyed. The House Ways and Means Committee found an email from back in 2012 where Lois, I'll plead the fifth Lerner, was having a little email conversation with one of her coworkers. And in this conversation, Diane, she called conservatives assholes.
Yes, she did. And she was complaining about the wacko ring of the GOP. I guess that means all of us, we're a bunch of wackos, according to Lois Lerner.
Now, if she went a lot further, Diane, she actually singled out talk radio hosts.
Yes, she did. We're scary to listen to.
Scary. And she singled out radio listeners.
Yes, she did.
She said something to the effect that people that listen to talk radio are more dangerous than the hosts of talk radio.
She actually called listeners like ours rabid.
Rabid.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes, of course.
She compared us all to terrorists?
Yes, she did. I mean, I'm looking at some of these emails here. And of course, folks, there's a lot redacted. True to, the left can't let the truth get out there completely.
I mean, it's just amazing to me that somebody in the position that she was in, where you and pretty much you alone decide who gets tax-exempt status and who doesn't, and you're being used by the regime as a weapon against conservatives. I mean, first of all, that's illegal. And then she's having these sorts of email conversations. Is it any wonder that they don't want us to see the rest of her emails?
No, of course not. And people need to understand that her selectively enforcing against conservative and Tea Party groups was driven by her personal hostility towards conservatives. Instead of doing her job, which is supposed to be impartial, she let her personal feelings for the right taint who she was and was not going to get 501c3 status. But let's not forget, folks, yes, this is part of it. Let's not forget the things that Craig and I have exposed over these past couple of weeks about who she did give 501c3 status to.
Why don't you just remind people, Diane, because this is really fascinating.
She gave it to DAWA, which the secretary of that organization is Malik Obama, Obama's ever-loving half-brother. And DAWA is a terrorist organization, folks. It's tied in with the Muslim Brotherhood. She also personally gave 501c3 status to an abbreviated version, the Sarah Obama Benevolent Fund, which is Barack Hussein Obama's grandmother. And she takes those money. She says she's giving them to widows and children, but one of their own people turned against them, and on Al Jazeera said no. What she's doing is she is taking the monies raised. She's taking Kenyan male students, paying for them to go to the top, most radical madrasas in Saudi Arabia, where they're taught the intricacies of Sharia. And then she's using more of the monies raised and sending those graduates to different countries, to different Muslim enclaves, to push those countries' governments to adopt Sharia. Now, I have no proof of this next statement, but I wouldn't be surprised if she's got a couple here, especially in Dearbornistan and a few other places in this country. And we are in possession of emails with her signature approving these groups.
Now, let me just see if I've got this straight. She is the one who signed off on giving tax-exempt status to outfits that raise money and give it to terrorist organizations, and yet we're the assholes.
Yes, and I have a feeling that the reason these emails are destroyed, beyond her signature giving them the final okay for their 501c3 status, there has to be, and it's a guess, my opinion, and I believe Craig's opinion, there has to be emails between her and Obama, maybe Obama telling her, and again we say maybe, telling her, you need to do this, and you need to do this now. I mean, come on. All the statuses that she gave to these terrorist organizations were in that time period of the missing emails.
I got a feeling, more and more of her emails are going to be found, and none of them are going to be pretty.
I think so too, and I think, if I was Lois Lerner, I would start checking out and see if you can get some stripes to work for you, because I think in the end you might be wearing them.
I don't want to speak for Diane here, but I've been called an asshole by a higher grade of subhuman than her. So I'm just saying, Now, next up, everybody I think remembers Fast and Furious. The gun running to the Mexican drug cartels. Well, now it turns out, Diane, that there was a Fast and Furious Afghanistan style.
Yes, there was. There are missing guns, weapons, machine guns, rifles that were given to the Afghan security forces, and poof, they've gone missing.
They're kind of like Lois Lerner's emails. Nobody knows where they are. But
Well, they probably went to ISIS. They probably, got taken out of Afghanistan, and they're over there in ISIS.
Now,
I would just guess.
We
it's just a
know
guess.
we know the Taliban has been attacking U.S. forces with our own weapons. We know that.
Yes.
But we're not talking here about a couple of dozen weapons, Diane. We're talking about 250,000 weapons.
Yes. And of those, there were 474,823 serial numbers recorded in Overlord. In other words, 43%, or 203,880 weapons are missing.
Yeah, and that's just for starters. That's just one part of what they called Operation Overlord. These are weapons that our military handed over to quote-unquote Afghan security forces, right?
Yes.
And today, we have no idea where those weapons are. They're gone.
I have a feeling some are in the hand of the Taliban and some have been given over to ISIS. Just a gut feeling.
I'm telling you, this regime that we have in place can't keep track of a damn thing. I mean, they lost the weapons they gave to the Mexican drug cartels. They've lost emails. They've lost hard drives. They've lost their marbles, and now they've lost weapons in one of the most violent places on earth.
But I guarantee you, they have found all the golf balls that Obama hits off course.
Oh man, it just absolutely astounds me, on a daily basis, how much of this crap we learn about, that these things are happening. I mean, it's just a tsunami of absolute malfeasance and corruption with this regime.
Absolutely. I mean, corruption puts it mildly. This is a band of thugs and thieves, and God only knows what else. But this, that we say this is the worst presidency in United States history. It's even more than that. It's an out and out traitorous operation.
The enemy is in that area. We're talking ISIS, we're talking the Taliban, we're talking Al Qaeda, we're talking the Muslim Brotherhood, we're talking Hamas. We're talking, that whole region is full of our enemies in times of war. Okay, what we are actually doing, what this Obama regime is doing, is literally handing weapons to our enemies in a time of war. It's treason.
That is treason. That's called aiding and abetting the enemy. This man...
ISIS, we know that they're driving around in American-made Humvees and carrying a bunch of American weapons. We now know that there's over 200,000 weapons missing in Afghanistan. It's just mind-blowing to me that Congress isn't putting a stop to this. But here's one more thing, Diane, before we close out the quick hitters today, that is also just astounding to me that Congress doesn't put a stop to, and that is the shipping, the actual trafficking of illegal aliens by the Obama regime. We're talking about a regime here, Diane, that says it's way too expensive to deport illegal aliens. It's just too expensive.
Uh-huh.
But now we find out that they're shipping them all over the United States at a distance of more than twice the distance that these people came from as their points of origin.
Yes, they traveled roughly 1,500 miles to get here from Central America, yet we're shipping them over 3,000 miles across the country to various shelters. But it's not just that we're shipping them, it's that we're shipping diseased people that are now going to spread communicable diseases throughout our country that we have eradicated. And now we have a generation of children that have no immunities to these eradicated diseases. This is called biological warfare, folks.
It's horrific. And let me just say, if you want to learn a lot more about that topic, you got to read Diane's article today at thepatriotfactor.blogspot.com. She goes into great detail on what's going on with this. But, the thing that amazes me is that, we're talking about, these people are coming from 1,500 miles away, but we can't possibly deport them back to 1,500 miles. Why, that's just too expensive. And yet we're putting them on planes and buses and driving them and flying them all over the damn country up here. Some of these kids, like Diane just said, have gone more than 3,000 miles since they got here.
Yes.
Now, how can we afford to do that if we can't afford to deport them?
But what's worse is they are bringing with them measles, mumps, rubella, polio, TB, smallpox, and even bubonic plague. This is serious, serious stuff, folks. This is biological warfare, and the carrier is children. This regime is as bad as Hamas. They are using children to hurt American citizens. And I don't want to hear the liberals coming out of the woodwork, but they're children. Yes, they are children. And I feel bad that children are being used. But you know what? Their parents allowed it. Their parents allowed it.
Well, their parents and their home countries.
Yes.
They're all allowing it and encouraging it. Obama is now actually talking about going down to Honduras and pre-screening, quote unquote, pre-screening to bring more of them up here.
Can you believe that? And all this is, folks, is the next generation of Democratic voters, because these children grow up and they will all vote Democratic, because Obama and crew are going to give them their freebies, their handouts. They're going to rape our welfare system. They're going to rape our healthcare system. Their hands are going to be out, gimme, 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 and he's going to give. And the only thing they have to give to him in return is loyalty to the party. You think I'm kidding, folks? It's happening now. It's happening as we speak.
And while they wait to vote, Diane, they're just sucking the system dry.
Exactly. These people are not coming here for the reasons, the Statue of Liberty, give us you're tired, you're huddled masses, you're poor. These people are not coming here to become American citizens. They're coming here to have American citizens cater to their culture, their language, their way. What Obama is doing is changing the political complexion of America. And it's not for the better. It's for creating a generation, 2 generations, 3 generations, beholden to a party. And that's dangerous.
Folks, we got a lot to talk about today. We're going to have to take a quick break right now, and hopefully when we come back, we'll have Jake Danishevsky with us. He grew up in the Ukraine, emigrated to the United States with his family, became a U.S. citizen. Diane, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back with more on Right Side Patriots after this.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
I believe that every single one of us has what it takes
to win back-to-back gold.
Ski faster than any other human.
I believe it's possible to overcome fear.
I believe
it's possible to destroy stereotypes.
To start over, to be the toughest,
the strongest,
the bravest in the world. And when we work together, we can make it all possible. That's why Citi has donated $500,000 through its Every Step of the Way program, an initiative created to help future athletes reach their full potential through sport programs that inspire us. Like figure skating in Harlem.
Like youth enrichment services. Like Team for Tomorrow.
The Team USA Stay on the Slopes initiative. Now spread the word and help decide how much of that money goes toward
offering personal support and financial assistance to Olympians in need.
Promoting the growth of hockey in the U.S.
Expanding the sport of luge into new regions.
Support for wounded service members. Join Team Citi and let's turn a world of potential into reality.
Go to citi.com/everystep and help decide where the money goes.
I'm just an old black sheep from the family tree. I'm now a vet and a victim of society. Hell, I stood by the gun just to keep us free. Now my own damn country's turned its back on me. You wanna judge me by my leathers and the steel I ride? Well, you don't know me. You need to step aside. Don't tread on me. You don't tread on me. From the Revolution War to the Middle East, I come back to a country that's lost its peace. And now here I stand on the promised land, free and a slave to Uncle Sam. You wanna judge me by my leathers and the steel I ride? Well, you don't know me. You need to step aside. Don't tread on me. You don't tread on me. Well, you think you know me, but you haven't got a clue. I stood and fought so that you would not have to. Don't tread on me. Yeah, don't tread on me. You wanna judge me by my leathers and the steel I ride? Well, you don't know me. You need to step aside. Don't tread on me. Now don't tread on me. Now don't tread on me. Now don't tread on me. Yeah, the old Middle East is like a man down. The old W's, K-I-H, M-I-A. And I fight little soldiers in a foreign land.
And we're back on Right Side Patriots. Craig Andreessen from the National Patriot with Diane Sori from the Patriot Factor. And as promised, we are joined by a great friend of the show and a great friend to me and Diane personally as well, Jake Danishevsky, who grew up in Ukraine, and then he and his family immigrated to the United States where they became proud American citizens. But Jake, you still got family and friends over there in Ukraine, am I correct?
Some family, not close relatives, but I do have some family. And the last time I spoke to one of my aunts, my mom's cousin, she was actually visiting another aunt in Moscow because it was safer to be there at the time. So yeah, I do have. I don't communicate with them as much, but I do have some family there.
You know, it's just an amazing situation that we see developing in the Ukraine right now. You know, we just got word a couple of days ago that Putin has moved multiple missile launchers up next to the border there at eastern Ukraine, and that he's actually firing rockets and missiles at Ukraine. I mean, one of the key things that we want to know is, what do you think, based on your contacts here, what do you think is the general feeling of the people of Ukraine right now? Do they want to be taken back into the Russian fold as Putin reorganizes the old Russian Empire, or would they rather stay as an independent country?
Well, my personal feeling, Craig, and this is just me personally thinking, Ukraine honestly never wanted to be part of Russia. When Germans came to occupy Ukraine, if Germans played their cards right, Ukraine would have been theirs in 2 days. Ukrainians welcomed Nazis with bread and salt, which is customary for a welcome guest. And Ukrainians, I know I'm going to upset some people, but Ukrainians in America are not the same type of Ukrainians that are in the old Soviet former republic. And Ukrainians killed more Jews in Ukraine than Nazis could ever kill. So if Ukraine had it their way and Nazis treated Ukrainians with a certain amount of respect, Ukrainians would have separated from Russia long before. Now, to take it to a different level, whether they want to be part of Russia or not, that's the split decision, because at this point, you got Ukrainians, Russians, Jews, Muslims even. You got all kinds of people living in Ukraine because, Soviet Union was such a multicultural sort of system that people intermarried. And to say that Ukrainians, it's hard to say that Ukrainians in Ukraine, because they're no longer Ukrainians. Some of them might be Russian Ukrainian, some of them might be Georgian Ukrainian, some of them might be not even Ukrainian. So it's hard to decide. But Putin is doing things, and I'll let you ask some questions, but Putin is doing things for various reasons, not just to grab power, but to show power, to show control that he has.
Yeah. Now, Putin, I've always said in the things I've written, Putin is not out to rebuild the old Soviet Union. What Putin wants to build is the Russian Empire. Now, according to history, the Ukraine was the cradle of the motherland. It was the heart of the motherland. Is he playing on that aspect to try to get Ukraine back on his side?
Well, that's a great point there, because you're right. I don't think Putin wants old Soviet Empire back, because Putin wants the old empire. Forget about the Soviet communists, because Putin is an opportunist. He sees a way for himself to profit, to prosper, and he sees free market system as a much more profitable system than what they used to have. Even in his position, he's doing a lot better than the old Soviet regime type of leaders. So Putin is able to profit and have an even better lifestyle in his position than he did before. But Ukraine, you're right, Ukraine is such a powerful entity. Ukraine was the first to separate from Soviet Union. Ukraine had the second largest arsenal of nuclear weapons in the world. Ukraine has the biggest national resources, one of the biggest in the world, not just in Soviet, not just in Russia. So, of course, Putin wants Ukraine back for many reasons: political, national resources, profitability. There's so many financial reasons. But also, if he grabs Ukraine, he almost thinks positively that he will grab the other republics, because Ukraine was the first to leave. And if Ukraine comes back to him, he thinks he can reunite the old powerful empire back.
Yes. Now, just one last thing about Putin. He is an opportunist, and he has used capitalism to his advantage to amass his own personal wealth. What people don't understand, and according to the digging on information about him that I've been doing, Putin is no longer a communist. He is a statist. And people need to know there is a big difference.
You're so right. It's such a great point that you just made. See, there's a difference. I mean, a lot of people get confused, the difference between a communist, a socialist, statist. Putin is neither a communist or a socialist at this point. He might admire Stalin for what Stalin built and passed on to him and other leaders before him, so to speak. But he is a statist. He wants to have full control with a tyrant rule in hand, but he wants to profit from the free market, from the oil wealth that they're building in Russia, all the natural resources that they can sell to the rest of the world, the weaponry that they can sell to the Middle East. I mean, look at what he's doing in Syria and other parts of the world just to prove a point that he can. He can have that control. He can sell all those items. He can personally profit. He's an entrepreneur and opportunist. You're right.
Jake, I want to ask you about the Russian separatist rebels. They obviously have been in the news lately because of the downing of the Malaysian airliner. But Diane and I looked at the evidence at hand, and we don't believe at this point that they are the responsible party. Now, my question to you is kind of twofold on this. What can you tell us about those separatist rebels, and how stable is the actual Ukraine government at this point? Are there rogue elements within that government?
Well, that's a good question, and you're right. It's a twofold question. I don't know. I know as much about the rebels as you do. Maybe less. Maybe the same. But what I can tell you that Ukraine has not been stable yet. I mean, look at the Ukraine. Look at the previous Ukrainian premier. He stole as much as possible, and right before they were able to catch on to him, he disappeared. He recused himself from the politics and just disappeared. He exiled himself. Look at the previous one. She was in power, but Putin was pushing her buttons. Then they imprisoned one. They brought that. This is actually the one that was in prison. He's in power right now. So, I mean, they have no stability. I said it time and time again, not just Ukraine, but the entire former Soviet Union, all the republics. It's going to take at least a century, a few generations dying out before the stability, the actual freedom that we truly understand and believe, that's backed up by Constitution, by some kind of rule of law, not just people who rule the country. It will take time because I heard somebody say something very smart and very interesting. It's not my words, but a friend of mine in political spectrum. He said Russia and Ukraine, they have constitution too. The problem is they just don't follow it. So if you have no rule of law that's backed by any specific standard, then of course you have this instability. And you're right, Ukraine and even Russia. If Putin, let's say, died tomorrow, you don't know what's going to happen in Russia or which way it's going to go. Is it going to come closer to free market or it's going to go back to old Soviet ways?
But being that Putin is a greedy man and is an opportunist, I would think he would go more towards the capitalistic way of gathering up more money. Yes, most of it'll be for himself, but I don't think he would actually go back to the communist ways. I mean, I could be mistaken.
No, you're right. But Diane, what I meant, I apologize. I said, let's say Putin either died or no longer lost his power or lost his control. Then we don't know. See, it's such instability. There is no such thing as somebody coming in and following the same set of rules. There is no set of rules. It's who rules the country. It basically makes his own kind of decisions and the way they want to take it. So it's not Putin. Putin, yes, we already know what type of animal he is. But let's say tomorrow he disappears. We don't know which way Russia is going to go, which way Ukraine is going to go, because there is no set standard of rules that somebody will actually follow and stand up to somebody like Putin or other leaders in those former republics.
Let me ask you one more question about a former leader, Medvedev. Now, Medvedev was trying to bring some reform to Russia. Is Putin and Medvedev on the outs because Medvedev was trying to bring reform to Russia? Or are those stories we're hearing just rumors?
No, the stories. Let me ask you a question. I'm going to come back with the question to you, so you can answer your own question. Who do you think was in charge even when Medvedev was running the country?
Putin, of course.
Why is that?
Well, Putin was the head of the KGB.
There you go. So if you have, let's say, a mafia boss sitting in the back of the room and says, okay, you're in charge. Who's in charge? Still the mafia boss in the back of the room. Putin controlled one of the most brutal organizations in the world. Whether he was named to be in charge or he was just sitting in the back of the room, he was controlling, he was like a puppet master to all of them.
Okay.
Well, now that brings up another question here. In Ukraine, within the government of Ukraine, are there ruthless elements leading that government right now? You said that the man who's running the show now used to be in prison, but is this a government that is capable of doing ruthless things?
Every one of them, you see, because Craig, like I said before, few generations of those like old ways Stalinists, even though they might not want Stalinism or communism back, they still have their own ways to do the ruling of the country or the republic. I mean, they're used to people bowing down to him. They're not used to listening to opposition. I mean, if you look at, for example, if you look at somebody opposing any of them, Ukrainian leadership or Putin, I mean, remember cases where people got acid spilled in their face, somebody accidentally got shot twice, somebody got stabbed in the back, but it was an accident. I mean, there were so many cases of accidents of somebody opposing these so-called leaders that they're used to this type of ways. It's all how they run and how they want to run. Greg, I don't think I answered your previous question fully, so let me iterate on one of the questions about the rebels. To be honest with you, about the rebels, where I personally think, where did they get the weapons? Who provided them with the weapons? I mean, and the question is easy. I mean, I guarantee that Putin is pushing those buttons as well.
Well, now, do you think, in your mind, do you think it's the separatist rebels that brought down the Malaysian plane? Diane and I looked at the available information, and we garnered it from a lot of different sources. To us, it looks more likely that the Ukraine government had a hand in it, more so than the rebels. But I'm interested in knowing your gut feeling on that.
Possibly. What I'm thinking, my feeling is slightly different than yours, but in the same lines. I think it was either Ukrainian or Russian government, and whoever shot makes no difference because a shooter is not necessarily the guy who gave him the weapon and gave the order. So it could have been Ukrainian government playing Russia against the world and saying this is Russian rebels, even though it was a bunch of punks using weapons that Ukraine gave them. On the other hand, Putin could say, well, we can control every gang out there, so I don't know what happened, even though he's got it on Ukrainian territory and he gave him the weapons, but he doesn't know anything about it. So you see, they're so corrupt and there's no way to investigate. I mean, look, we tried to ask them for black boxes, which really would not prove anything because there was nothing wrong with the plane, and they refused. Why did they refuse? Is going to bring us to the next question, and I'm sure you're going to ask. Why is such instability in that region to begin with? Right?
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, that whole area just seems like a tinder box or a box of dynamite ready to explode. Can Ukraine withstand Putin's advances and Putin's military might at this point? Can Ukraine survive Putin's attempt to pull them back into what we're looking at as the new Russian Empire?
It's a tough question because Ukraine has an army. I don't know how good, how strong their army is. Before, as you remember, the Russian Empire, so to speak, had one of the most powerful armies in the world. Why? Because, first of all, they were drafted. Second of all, they were always angry because, they were always angry at the rest of the world because the way they taught kids in Russia is that your lifestyle sucks, so to speak, because of American capitalism. Never mind that communism is bringing you down and you have nothing to eat or clothes to wear. So Russians were always angry. So now you got Ukrainian army, probably a bunch of angry men and women who hate, I'm sure they hate Russia maybe in some way. So, you could fight, 300 against 10,000 if you have that anger. So it's hard to tell, but Putin does have a strong military. He does have weaponry. They did ask Ukraine when they separated to surrender their nuclear weaponry, and I believe they have. But with corruption, of course, out of, let's say, 140 nuclear suitcases, they only found 80 somehow. They didn't know what the rest went or disappeared to. So, whether Ukraine has powerful weaponry or not, it's hard to say because they surrendered a lot of their weaponry when the old republic started to separate.
Let me ask you one more question. As far as Crimea, when all is said and done, if Ukraine is able to hold on to their autonomy, will they try to get back Crimea, or are they counting that as fully lost at this point?
I personally don't know because I don't have the insight, but I know that Crimea themselves, because it used to be a Russian territory, because when it was one country, nobody cared if it's part of Russia or Ukraine. But because it used to be Russian territory, and then they gave it to Ukraine, they made it part of Ukraine, you got the Russians living there. So they kind of pick and choose, and I guess they choose Russia. But, in reality, you got such a mix of people that I'm sure there are Ukrainians, there are Russians. So which way it's going to go, it's hard to tell. I predicted, I believe on your show last time we spoke, that it will require just one shot, and I believe that shot has been made. So now we're looking at most likely a civil war in that region. Donetsk wants to separate. And another thing, do you notice the pattern here? As soon as Donetsk says that they want to separate from both Russia and Ukraine, all of a sudden the plane gets hit, and it's over Donetsk.
Yes. Yes.
So right away, Donetsk kind of curbs their enthusiasm of separating because now the whole world is looking at Donetsk. Maybe Donetsk did something, So it was very interesting coincidence.
And also that flight path of that plane was not its original flight path. It was changed at the last minute to go south of where it should have been to bring it right over Donetsk. There's a lot of questions in that plane crash, and that's what Craig and I wrote about. We gave different possibilities. Craig and I both happen to believe that the plane was shot down air to air, not ground to air, but we're not discounting that possibility either. This whole situation stinks.
Well, suffice it to say that both Diane and I stand firmly with the Ukrainian people that want to be independent, want to have their freedom, that don't want to further the maniacal ends of Vladimir Putin. But Jake Danishevsky is our guest in this half hour. And Jake, in the few minutes that we have left, I want to give you a chance to plug a couple of different things. Now, one you probably know I'm going to let you plug. The other one might come as a bit of a surprise to you. But you've got a great book out. And we talked about this the last time you were on the show. But let people know the title of the book and where they can get it. And folks, if you want to read the story of an immigrant to this country who truly, he and his family wanted to become Americans, this is the book you need to read.
Thank you, Craig. The book is called Aftertastes and Tales from Russia. Aftertastes and Tales, because I tell the tales of a really bad aftertaste of that system, of the system that I truly despise. And you can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles. You can get it in ebook format. You can get it in Kindle format. You can get it in different types of format that you can. And it's an easy read. It's a read more like a blog because I don't consider myself a writer, but I wanted to tell a story. So I hope you enjoy it and pass it on maybe to a friend or a neighbor so they can enjoy it and understand where I'm coming from and what I learned from that system and from how to appreciate America.
Well, if you want to find out what it's like to be a proud American, you've got to pick up Aftertastes and give it a read. And Jake, the other thing I want to let you plug, and you and I haven't even really spoken about this, but you're the proud parent of a recording artist.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Craig. Wow. Yes, I didn't expect that. My daughter is a singer-songwriter. She's a recording artist who's been signed as a songwriter to BMG, but she's not yet signed as an artist. And she has a couple of videos out with her duet partner, who's her longtime friend in the industry. His name is Simon Curtis. My daughter's name is Ro Wolfie Danishay, and their project is called Rothschild. It's WRATHS Child. And on YouTube, they have two videos, amazing videos. Craig, I believe you saw one or maybe both of them, and I believe you liked them.
I loved them. I let me tell you, I saw the first one, became an instant fan of Rothschild. And then just a few weeks ago, because the songs are so brilliantly written and the videos are so brilliantly filmed, I went back and I wanted to watch the original video. I found the other one and watched that. Absolutely remarkable music. If you're into, kind of the pop, somewhere between the pop and the techno, and you want to hear some really, really good voices that stand out, because, so much of what we hear in popular music today is the rap stuff, which doesn't do a thing for me. If you want to hear lyrics and songs that are stories and see some brilliantly made videos, you got to check out Rothschilds. But I also encourage you to get Jake's book and read it and keep it on your coffee table and let other people see it, because I'm telling you, Jake Danishevsky is an American success story. Came to this country as a young man, as a boy, with his family, learned the language, became Americans, and has loved this country ever since.
Yes, he has.
Thank you, Dan. And just to add, you're so right about the music that my daughter and her duet partner make, because they got tired of music not having the lyrics. And one of the songs even says that let's forget about sex and concentrate on a romance like those 80s movies. Like you used to see those Brad Pitt movies like Breakfast Club and St. Elmo's Fire. Those were real films with real love stories, with real friendships. Now you see movies, you don't even remember them next day. And that's what they wanted to concentrate on in their music.
Well, Jake, Diane and I really want to thank you for coming back and being on the show again. And don't be surprised if we bring you back again and again, because what's happening over there in Ukraine and Russia and Putin and that whole situation over there is not something that's going to fall out of the news cycle anytime soon. And we so appreciate having you on the show. And please give our best to Wolfie and Simon, because what great music. And we'll see if we can't get some and play one of their songs maybe this Saturday on the show so people can hear it.
Absolutely. I mean, you're welcome to play it. I can even send you the track, or you can download it. It's available on the internet. Let me know. I'll be glad to. And I am so glad to be on your show. I'll come back anytime that you will have me on, and I appreciate your audience for listening and giving me the time. Thank you so much.
Great to have you back, and I hope your family stays safe.
Thank you so much, Dan. Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Diane. I appreciate it, and thanks for inviting me on the show.
All our best, Jake, and thank you. Diane, we're going to have to take a quick break here. That was a very, very interesting and informative segment, but it went too fast. But we're at the top of the hour here. We're going to take a quick break, and then Diane and I will be back to talk about the situation happening in Israel. Folks, there are things that will light your hair on fire. I guarantee it. Oh, man. We're going to be back. Give us a couple of minutes. with more Right Side Patriots on CPR Worldwide Media.
Why do cities shine so bright? It's the glow of opportunities, of ideas bouncing off one another, of countless people, every one of us, striving to succeed. Right now, in cities everywhere, ideas are being born. New thinking that will put us in awe of what people are capable of. That's what lights cities up. And helping people and their ideas to burn even brighter, so that communities, businesses, and you and I can grow. What if a bank made that its job? For more than 200 years, Citi's job has been to help empower people and business. Now, around the world, it's wherever people gather, wherever ideas come alive. It's wherever you are. The world's city.
We at the CPR Worldwide Media Network, your constitutional patriot radio station, would like to take a moment to reach out to a portion of our listening audience. To the NSA, the mainstream media, to liberals masquerading as conservatives who would like to see us off the air, and to those who are spinning their wheels trying to take us down, we have a special message just for you. At the CPR Worldwide Media Network, we're happy to be your 24/7, 365 obsession because, while you have your little panties in a wad, we're speaking truth to power, telling real conservatives what you don't want them to hear, the truth, and we're not gonna stop. Now then, back under your collective bridges with the rest of your fellow trolls, and oh yes, thanks for listening to CPR.
This is a station identification moment. You're listening to CPR Worldwide Media, a division of CPR Media Network, coming to you live right across the planet. Check out our website at www.cprworldwidemedia.com and our Facebook page at facebook.com/CPR Worldwide Media. This is CPR Media Network, coming to you live from the USA.
Well, looky here, a new listener. Hey, this ain't your little sister's radio station.
You're listening to the second hour of Right Side Patriots on CPR Worldwide Media.
We, the people.
And we're back on Right Side Patriots. Craig Andreessen from the National Patriot with Diane Sori from the Patriot Factor. What a great segment with Jake Danishevsky. And folks, I'm not kidding you. You got to read that book. Aftertaste from Russia. Fantastic. You can find it on Amazon. And just a great story of real, true American immigrants. Fantastic.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And these are the kind of immigrants that America welcomes to their shores. People who came here legally, who want to become Americans, who want to assimilate into American society, not have American society cater to them.
Well, I'll tell you what, Diane, we have got to get into this situation in Israel. It is absolutely astounding what's happening in Israel right now. And I I kind of been struggling a little bit as to how to really get into this, but I think because it's such fresh news, I think the way we need to do this is by talking a little bit about Obama's demands over the weekend.
Yes.
Obama literally he phoned up Prime Minister Netanyahu and literally demanded that Israel accept a ceasefire without conditions.
Correct. And it was a ceasefire that favored Hamas and spoke absolutely nothing of demilitarizing Gaza.
I mean, this is unbelievable, folks. I wrote about this a couple of days ago in the National Patriot, nationalpatriot.com. Now, this is the deal that this absolute buffoon, John Kerry, was offering. Okay, he said that they were giving $47 million of U.S. taxpayer money to Hamas, along with securing the openings of crossings, allowing the entry of goods and people into quote-unquote Palestine, ensuring the social and economic livelihood of quote-unquote Palestine and of the quote-unquote Palestinian people that are living in Gaza. They're transferring funds to Gaza for the payment of salaries for public employees and addressing all of the security concerns of the Palestinian Authority and Hamas. Now, in return, Israel would benefit from the 7-day ceasefire that Kerry was trying to negotiate. Israel would benefit from a general discussion of all of their security issues.
I don't think
hell?
So. Yes.
You just hear that and you go, what are Kerry and Obama thinking? And then, Diane, you add to this the fact that Kerry was using as his primary negotiators, the prime players in this, the countries of Qatar and of
Turkey.
Now, Turkey is where ISIS was given birth to, and Qatar is who we gave the Taliban 5 to in the trade for Bo Bergdahl. These are both terrorist-sponsoring, terrorist-harboring countries that actually fund Hamas. Now, how could Israel possibly feel secure, knowing that the two major players in this are the people that want them wiped off the map?
Exactly. Now, we've gotten hold of the leaked phone call that Obama had with Netanyahu, the transcript of the phone call. And Obama had the absolute audacity to demand, and this is a quote, folks, I repeat and expect Israel to stop all of its actions against Hamas in Gaza. This is what Obama said. And he added that despite Netanyahu's objections, the United States trusts Qatar and Turkey's mediation, continuing on by saying, quote, Israel is not in a situation that it can choose its mediators. In other words, Obama told Netanyahu, it's our way or no way. Thank God Netanyahu basically told him he can stick it, because Netanyahu was on TV a couple of nights ago and he said, we're going to end this once and for all. Our people need to be safe and secure in their homes.
Now, I've got to say that Ben Rhodes, a White House blather person, and you might remember the name Ben Rhodes. He's the guy that wrote the talking points on Benghazi.
Yes.
Okay? He has stepped up now and claims that transcript from which Diane was just reading is 100% completely false. It's fabricated. It's made up. It's nothing to be believed. It's a lie. Now, I got to tell you, when Ben Rhodes says something is a lie, it's got to be the truth.
Absolutely. Plus, it was reported on Israel's main TV station, and they were reading from it directly. We do have a copy of what was on Israeli TV. Unfortunately, if we were to play it for you, it's all in Hebrew.
We would have to play it literally from right to left for people to understand it.
Yes.
But today, now this is kind of a new thing. This happened just literally as we were getting ready to take air on Right Side Patriots today, Diane. But Israel has backed up just a little bit, declared, I think it was a 4-hour ceasefire because yet another UN school has been hit.
Well, you know what? These UN schools, and yes, it was hit. But what did Israel find? There were weapons stored there under the ground, weapons and rockets. This is the same UN. When Israel confiscated some weapons, turned them over to the UN gave them right back to Hamas. The UN is complicit in this. And people need to understand the UN is not Israel's ally, never has been.
Late last week, a UN school was hit. Of course, the Palestinian Authority and Hamas, the national media, our national lamestream media, and the international press immediately jumped up and down and blamed it on Israel. Look, Israel just blew up a school full of kids. You know, how despicable of Israel. Then the actual video came out showing that it was a Hamas rocket. Hamas hit that school, whether on purpose or inadvertently. It was a Hamas rocket. We know now that at least 125 Hamas rockets have not even made it to Israel. They have come down and exploded within Gaza.
Yes.
Now, we don't know, and we can't even guess, whether late last week Hamas targeted that school as a PR ploy or whether it was an inadvertent shot. But we can tell you that school late last week was hit by Hamas themselves. This one we don't know about. We don't know if this was hit by Israel or whether it was hit by Hamas. But Israel said we're going to hold back for 4 hours while we investigate this. And then Netanyahu came out and said, if Hamas thinks what we've done up to this point is harsh, they ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah, Bibi's going to end this once and for all. This has gone on too long, folks. And you need to understand that during this time frame, there have been 5 agreed to ceasefires by both sides. Guess which side has broken it every single time? Israel was willing to let it go on to see how long they can get this ceasefire to last. Hamas, literally, the second the ceasefire ended, including the one last week for the 12 hours for the so-called humanitarian aid, almost on the dot, Hamas started lobbing rockets again into Israel. The world needs to understand Israel is the good guys in this, but you know what? The world's not going to understand it because there are many people in this world, many countries in this world who would love to see Hamas and their ilk finish off what the Nazis started.
I got to tell you, you watch this as closely as Diane and I do on a daily basis, and you really start to see what's going on here. There is scuttlebutt now. And before I get into the scuttlebutt, let me just go back to John Kerry trying to broker this 7-day ceasefire. Okay, failed miserably. So bad that Israel is now basically through with John Kerry. Yes. If I was the Israelis at this point, I wouldn't even let his plane land there again. I mean, they just look at this guy as nothing but a chump at this point, and for good reason. When your two main players to broker a peace deal are the very people that are funding one side of the war and not the side that Israel's on, the two terrorist-harboring, terrorist-sponsoring countries of Turkey and Qatar are the ones that are going to take care of Israel in a peace deal and make sure that the quiet is restored. Yeah, bull crap. But, Kerry failed miserably. Everything he proposed was just laughable in this peace deal process. Now, the scuttlebutt around Washington, D.C. is that John Kerry is hopping mad because he feels that he has now lost his opportunity not to garner peace for Israel, but he's lost his opportunity to win a Nobel Peace Prize.
Oh, yeah. Some peace prize. Well, you know what? Obama won it for doing nothing. Who knows? They'll give it to Kerry for trying.
They'll probably give it to Hamas for being a humanitarian organization. But
That's true.
I don't want to get into that because I've got an article coming out tomorrow that has that in there.
Right.
But, The thing of this is, Obama, this regime, John Kerry, they have absolutely no business trying to broker any kind of a peace deal for Israel. Israel has been, tolerant long enough. They have had over 2,500 missiles fired at them in the month of July alone.
Yes.
Iron Dome is picking off about 90 to 95% of them. Now, if you had a country that was under constant fire, and your people of your country had, in many cases, no more than 15 seconds to get themselves into a bomb shelter, and this had been going on for years, what would you do? Would you just, say, well, you know what, we'll give the people shooting at us everything they want, and we'll just lay back because, as long as we give them marshmallows and cookies, they'll be happy and they won't shoot at us anymore.
No, the difference with me is I would have gone in a long time ago. I wouldn't have played this political footsie. But something else that has to be brought up in this battle that Israel is in. They're fighting in Gaza, but they've also started fighting on a second front, and that's the West Bank. Now, people need to think about this. Iran recently, just within days, issued a statement that they will arm the West Bank with missiles. Now, folks, there's more to that than meets the eye. When Ketchup Boy, as Craig loves to call him, brokered that ridiculous extension so Iran can disarm, which they never did, their nuclear program, part of that deal was that we would release some frozen funds to Iran, which we have done to the tune of X number of $1 billion. I'm not sure of the figure off the top of my head, but it is in the billions of dollars. Now, that meant they can use that money for anything. Well, guess what was part of that statement that was issued? Now that we have more money due to the releasing of funds, we will be sending over rockets to the Hamas fighters on the West Bank. So in other words, folks, the money that Obama released, which is our taxpayer money, is now going to go to fund the West Bank rebels, Hamas, the West Bank terrorists, I should say.
Right.
To killing our allies' people. Our money, people, is going to become death money.
Let me tie this together with something that Diane brought up a little bit earlier on the show, because this is also very important. Now, you've got Iran that just had their, a bunch of their assets unfrozen, so they've got more money to pour into Hamas. Okay, we gave Hamas $47 million last week for humanitarian aid, and they'll use it for humanitarian purposes, right? Mm-hmm. You've also got the Qataris that are funding Hamas. Yeah, I mean, everywhere you look, either the UN or the United States is making it such that the countries that are going to pour weapons and pour funding into the terrorist organization of Hamas inside of Israel are getting their money directly from us.
Yes, I want my share of that money back, because I'll be damned if I'm going to help those bastards kill Israelis.
We have seen in videos over the last several days what happens to the people of Gaza who decide they would rather get the hell out of there than be human fodder as human shields. The Hamas terrorist goons have rounded them up and shot them in the street. They do this so they can show the other residents of Gaza, this is what happens if you heed the Israeli call to evacuate. We will simply gather you up, line you up in the street, and shoot you down. So they're using human shields, men and women and children. Especially children. We know that they're hiding their weapons and rocket launchers in schools, in hospitals, in neighborhoods, around shopping centers. We now know that over 160 Palestinian children died digging the tunnels that the terrorist bastards of Hamas are using to hide and transport their weapons and their personnel.
Yes.
And yet we've got a media in this country and around the world that is just hell-bent on painting Israel as being the bad guys and the aggressors here. It is sick and it is perverted.
Yes, there's a saying that I use, and folks, you really have to excuse if Craig and I seem like we're talking over each other. We're not. We are getting little hits here and there, and also when these hits happen, sometimes we black out from each other for a second or two. Okay, there's a very famous expression that Pamela Geller has used, and it's on her bus signs all across the country, about the civilized man versus the savages. I take it a step further. I say these savages do not have the right to live, let alone walk, amongst civilized men. And the reason I say this is any people that would use children to do their dirty work, children to absorb the bullets being shot at them, children to cover themselves as rockets are falling. These are savages. These are animals of the worst kind. And Israel has had enough of this. They've had enough. It's time to take out the trash for good.
You know, they've got to clean out Gaza and Gaza City. They've got to clean out the West Bank. They've got to rid those places of these terrorists. And folks, that's what they are. They are terrorists. Our State Department says they're terrorists. Now think about this. Hamas is listed by the United States State Department as a terrorist organization, and John Kerry just gave them $47 million.
Yes, he just funded a terrorist-listed organization. Now, if you ask me, that's aiding and abetting the enemy. That's treason also.
And we have, you know, I will say this. There are members now on both sides of the aisle in Congress that are livid over this,
yes,
but not nearly enough of them. You know, we need more from the left side of the aisle to get a freaking clue and understand what is really going on over there and who's really at fault for it and who really is the good guy and who really is the bad guy in this situation. But we are seeing even members of the liberal side of Congress are now stepping up to say, you know what, Gaza is using human shields. Gaza is the aggressor. Gaza opened this war up, and Gaza's got it coming. And we need more.
Not only that, people don't understand. You know, everybody thinks Israel is going so gung-ho and being the aggressor. Actually, Israel is holding back because people don't realize the might that the Israeli army has. They don't realize the little friends that Israel has that they're not using. They don't realize the strength Israel has. No, Israel is holding back. They are trying to keep collateral damage to a minimum as best they can, which is very hard to do when the enemy is putting the civilians out there to protect themselves. Well, yes, civilians are going to be killed, but you know what? You don't want your civilians killed? Don't go to war with Israel.
And don't use your own people as human shields. I mean, if you don't want the collateral, quote unquote collateral damage, then get your weapons and get your fighting forces the hell away from schools and playgrounds and hospitals and shopping centers, and quit being the cowards that you are, you scum of the earth, you, and fight a war like warriors instead of fighting a war like cowardly weasels. But here's one other thing, Diane, and this we haven't talked about, and this is something I think we need to. And this is, you know, it seems at a distance like it's off topic with Israel, but I don't think it is. Last week, or just a couple of days ago, that little twerp over in North Korea, Kim Jong-un, he he literally threatened a nuclear attack against Washington, against the White House, against the Capitol, Washington, D.C. Now, here's the way this plays in, folks. You have to know that little twit over there is a very good friend and traitor with Iran. That little twit in North Korea has nuclear weapons. Now, he does not have a very sophisticated delivery system. You know, they're shooting off rockets that just go all over the place. Nobody knows where they're going to land at this point, but they're working on it. But he's got the warheads. Think of the devastation that would be caused if he gave one of those warheads to Iran right now.
Yes.
All Iran would have to do is find a way to get that into Israel.
Yes.
Once they do that, all holds barred. Israel will go nuclear on anybody's ass that is part of that.
Exactly. And just know that every Israeli is equipped with a gas mask, anti-radiation pills and medicines, and there are bomb shelters that can withstand nuclear fallout and a nuclear attack. Israel will survive, but the other countries will become Israel's parking lot.
You know, you got to look at the big picture. You got to step back far enough to look at the big picture, folks, because this is not boiling down to just a skirmish between Israel and Hamas. There are too many other countries that are involved in funding Hamas. There are too many other countries that feel the way that Iran feels and would aid Iran in any way they can so that Iran could wipe Israel from the map. Hamas has it in their charter to kill every Jew on a worldwide scale and destroy Israel.
And so does the PLO. The PLO still also has it in their charter that all Jews must die.
You know, Hezbollah fired a few rockets a couple of weeks ago at Israel, but Hezbollah has 10,000 rockets aimed at Israel. So it's only a matter of time before they unleash. And what we're looking at now is a two-front war with Gaza and the West Bank becomes a three-front when you add in Hezbollah in Lebanon. And it's a powder keg over there, and Obama doesn't have a freaking clue what's going on.
Not only that, Israel is also not only fighting for themselves, but people need to realize Israel is also fighting for Jordan. Jordan and Israel have been friends, if you will, for years now. They have many trade agreements. King Hussein was educated in the United States or in Europe. I'm not sure which one, but he is married to an American, Queen Noor. They realized long ago that it's advantageous to both sides to be friends with each other. And now we have El-Sisi from Egypt standing strong with Israel. These are major developments, people, major. But of course, they are not being reported in the media. All you hear is Israel is the aggressor. The poor Palestinians, the Palestinians who don't exist, by the way, all you hear is that kind of stuff. That's why Craig and I do what we do, because we need people to know the truth.
Well, and we're going to do whatever we can to get that out there and expect this thing to escalate. Expect Israel to escalate their actions because Hamas is too dirt stupid to realize they're on the wrong end of history and on the wrong end of the future in this fight right now. If Hamas would lay down their weapons, there would be peace. Israel would welcome a two-state solution. I don't think they should, but they will. And under that type of a situation, the Palestinian people would prosper like they've never thought possible. But their hatred of Israel, born of millennia ago, is not going to give up. And they're just going to keep this up and keep this up. Netanyahu's had enough. Israel's had enough. And the Obama regime is acting like a bunch of terrorist doofuses in backing Hamas and not standing with one of the greatest allies this country has ever known, and that is Israel.
And one other thing people need to understand, I'm one of those that I am dead set against a two-state solution, because in 1947, when the UN started to put together the nation of Israel and when it was incorporated in 1948, the Arabs were given a chance. They were given what was called Transjordan. They turned it down. What people also need to understand, like I said before, there are no Palestinians. These are regular, run-of-the-mill Arabs that their own brethren don't want. That says volumes.
I mean, they're the bottom of the barrel, under the barrel, Arab nomads that no other Arab nation wants to take in. And all they want to do is wipe Israel off the map. I'm sick of it. Diane's sick of it. Netanyahu's dealing with it. And Obama can just go pound sand on that topic for all we're concerned. Diane, we're going to have to take a break here. We're going to be back, though, because we want to get back into the shooting down of the Malaysian airliner MH17. So don't go anywhere, folks. Diane and I will be right back with one more segment on Right Side Patriots after this.
Dad, Katy Perry is coming to town. Can we get tickets, please?
Tickets? Sure. How many?
Well, there's Hannah and Maddie and Jen and Sarah and Sarah.
Whoa, hold on. Here it comes. We can't forget about your older sister.
Thank you.
Seriously? What? I get 2 times the thank you points on each ticket. Can I come? Yeah.
The City Thank You Preferred Card. Now earn 2 times the points on entertainment and dining out with no annual fee. To apply, go to city.com/thankyoucards.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
Short, my hair was long, caught somewhere between a boy and man. She was 17 and she was far from in between. It was summertime in northern Michigan. Splashing through the sandbar, talking by the campfire. Simple things in life, like when and where. We didn't have no internet, but man, I never will forget the way the moonlight shined upon her hair. change. Oh, how we thought those days would never end. Sometimes I hear that song and I'll start to sing along and think, man, I'd love to see that girl again. Man, I'd like to see that girl again. And we were trying different things, and we were smoking funny things, making love out by the lake to our favorite songs, sipping whiskey out the bottle, not thinking about tomorrow, singing Sweet Home Alabama all summer long, singing Sweet Home Alabama all summer long, singing Sweet Home Alabama all summer long.
And we're back on Right Side Patriots. Craig Andreessen from the National Patriot with Diane Sori from the Patriot Factor. And Diane, we promised people that we were going to get into this shooting down of MH17, the Malaysian airliner that took place just a matter of a week or so ago. And the situation over there with this thing is bizarre, to say the least. We now understand that there are reports, they're not confirmed, but there are reports that the Russian separatists in that area are laying landmines around the crash site to dissuade any investigators from coming in there. The black boxes initially were taken to Moscow and then turned over to the British, so they are over in the UK. An Australian group of investigators 2 days ago found a huge section of the plane with seats and bodies still in it, and part of what they found showed evidence that the plane, and these are their words, not mine, showed evidence that the plane had been strafed by some sort of machine guns.
And guess what? Machine guns from the ground, folks, don't reach up there, but machine guns from another aircraft do.
Now, Diane and I, the other day, we spent a few days, more than a few days, pouring through whatever information was available, and from so many different sources. You can't believe the amount of stuff that we were going through and trying to sift through, and we looked at everything, including Jane's Digest, the military digest of weaponry, to try and piece together, connect the dots as to the different possibilities of what could happen. Now, initially, what we were all told was that this was a Russian separatist group that holds this little tiny piece of eastern Ukraine and claims it as their own, that they got funded by Russia and supplied by Russia, and they shot the thing down with an SA-11 surface-to-air missile. This is what all the media continues to report.
Yes.
This is what Obama, after a day or so came out and said, But I got to tell you, when Obama says that this is what happened, I think just the opposite must be the truth. And Diane and I, started really, really digging into it. And what we discovered was that while it's possible that an SA-11 surface-to-air missile took this thing down, it's improbable that it did. To use a surface-to-air missile of that type, you have to have a visual on the aircraft. We know from the videos of the crash site as the plane crashed that it was an overcast day. Visibility up to 33,000 was not going to be very good on that day. You also have to understand that according to Jane's Digest, we're not making this up, it takes about 5 minutes to track a target with the radar of that particular Buk missile system, and then another 20 to 25 seconds to lock on, acquire target, and fire it. This plane was only over that target area for 1 minute and 10 seconds before it was brought down. These are the things that you have to look at in connecting the dots to say, is it possible? Yeah. Is it probable? Not so much.
Exactly. This could have been nothing but a big coincidence that, yes, the rebels did shoot off a rocket at that time, but The Soviets have said, the Russians have said that their radar, that their ground stations picked up a Ukrainian fighter plane within a mile or two of this downed airliner at the time that this would have been going on. And something that, Obama will never admit, but it is common knowledge, the U.S. has a fixed spy satellite over that area at all times. And the Russians asked for the pictures from that satellite to sort of prove their case that they did not have any part in the takedown of this plane. Yet our government will not release those photos. That's questionable. Obama rushed to judgment, and if you remember what he said when this first happened, after Putin told him that a plane was down, Obama said our main goal needs to be recovering the bodies. He didn't say our main goal needs to be who took this down. Now, I'm not saying, and Craig is not saying, that Obama had any part in the takedown of this plane. Yet, there is some kind of cover-up going on here. You don't rush to judgment like this. Obama didn't learn his lesson over the YouTube video, it seems. You rush to judgment, it's going to come back and bite you.
Well, and you have to understand, folks, that Obama is desperate at this point. I mean, literally desperate to try and find some way of making Putin look like a jackass. Because Putin has certainly, at least with one hand tied behind his back, if not with two, made Obama look like a jackass for almost the entire last year. Think back to the situation in Syria. Obama had that doofus John Kerry run out there and tell the world, we're gonna go to war against Syria. There's no doubt about it. We have to go to war. We're set. We're ready to go. And then 2 hours later, Obama comes out and says, well, we're not really going to do that. And Putin says, hey, I got this. And Putin steps in and takes all the shine off of Obama's big plans. And Putin has been making Obama look like an absolute idiot now for the last year, and he doesn't even have to try because most of the time Obama's doing that on his own.
Exactly.
But Obama is desperate to find a way to make Putin look like the bad guy and to get PR going against Vladimir Putin.
Yes, and we're not sticking up for Putin, guys. You really need to understand that we know what Putin is. But we also know, because we're living the nightmare that is Obama. The man is a pathological liar. He needs to do any and everything to take the demasculization of him being done by Putin. He needs, to get a little machismo back here. And he would do anything to knock Putin down a notch or two. This rush to judgment on his part, on our government's part, kind of needs to stop, because the facts are not adding up that this plane was shot down from the ground. Machine gun bullets could have only come from a fighter plane. The plane was diverted at the last minute off its original course, and it was diverted off a course that was safe to go onto a course that took it right over the rebel-held territory. There were too many unanswered questions here, folks, and an American president ready to rush to judgment.
It was the Malaysians who let it leak, that the diversion of the plane's path was handled by Kiev, by Ukrainian air traffic control. Moved it on a path 200 miles to the north of where it should have been. And like Diane said, put it right over this war zone, right over this rebel territory. Now, those records we don't have yet, because apparently Kiev is not giving them up, which in and of itself is a little strange. If Kiev and if Ukraine is not complicit in any way in this, why wouldn't they turn those records over? Exactly. These are all pieces of the puzzle, all the little dots that you have to connect. You've got Russia, who initially grabbed up the black boxes. The rebels reportedly gave those to the Russian troops. The Russian troops rushed those back to Moscow, and everybody said, well, you see, Russia wouldn't be trying to get those so fast if they didn't do this. But then what did Russia do? They turned them over to the British. Now, if Russia was complicit in this, why would they turn the black boxes and their evidence over to the Brits?
Exactly. They would have kept it for themselves and never let it out of their hands. There's too much going on here, folks. There's too many unanswered questions, too many points of contention. I mean, in our article, we even put out the possibility that this plane was exploded from within. Something in the cargo holds. That it was on a timer, a la Lockerbie. That someone on that plane had something that could have set it off. Now, that is not a likelihood by any means. What all the evidence is pointing to is the takedown from an air-to-air missile. Yet, in this day and age of the muzzy terrorist, you do have to keep all options open. But the one thing that it's moving away from is this being a surface-to-air missile.
It just doesn't seem that plausible when you really understand how these surface-to-air missiles work. It would be a lucky, beyond lucky shot that they were able to bring this thing down. Now, yes, they have brought down fighter jets and they have brought down cargo jets. Okay, but think of it this way. If these Ukrainian rebels with the surface-to-air missiles see a fighter jet behind a rather large aircraft. We're talking 33,000 feet here. You cannot discern visually a whole lot at 33,000. If they got a brief glimpse of this through a break in the cloud cover, to them it would look like a military plane being escorted by a fighter jet because they had shot down both before. So maybe they took a shot, just said, well, look, there's a fighter jet, there's a military jet, take a shot, let's see what happens. But if that little fighter jet, and the Ukrainians have, it's the Su-25 fighter jets, real funky little fighter jet thing, kind of a humpback looking thing. But those things are armed with R-60 air-to-air missiles, and those have a grenade-type head, a fragmentation head with a proximity fuse, which could explain some of the shrapnel, effects that we've seen on some of the pieces of the crashed airliner. But those little Su-25s also have machine gun mounts. And we just saw yesterday from the Australian investigators pieces of the plane that have been strafed by machine gun fire. So you got to put all these pieces together and say, what is the most likely possibility here? And right now, with the evidence that we have, that we've been able to find, the most likely, we're not saying definitively, the most likely scenario in this is that it was brought down by a fighter jet with a combination of gunfire and an air-to-air missile, not a surface-to-air missile.
Exactly. I mean, you've got to think logically. You've got to put aside everything the mainstream media tells you, everything Obama and his cohorts tell you, because they do not tell the truth. They do not want the truth out there. They just don't. So you have to think logically. You have to research. You have to understand this information is out there. You just have to look for it.
Now, if you want to see how we put this all together, if you want to read what Diane and I actually did in a tandem article, we co-wrote the article, you need to go to yesterday's blogs and go to Diane's thepatriotfactor.blogspot.com, or you can go to my blog, thenationalpatriot.com, yesterday's entry, and you can read that article about MH17. Now, that said, we got, and I don't want to say it was a lot, it was a small handful of people that have ties to the Ukraine that came unglued when they read that, because all they saw in there was that we're blaming Ukraine and the Ukraine government for this. They never cared about the other scenarios we put forth, never gave those a second thought. And they, one guy offered some meaningful, thoughtful commentary on it. But the rest of these people, this small handful of people, were just vile and disgusting, just like liberals usually are. And I addressed that because they're saying, well, you stand with Putin. You're obviously a communist. Putin's not a communist, first of all. Okay.
He's a statist.
He's a statist. He's trying to rebuild the empire, not the Soviet Union. But that aside, that bit of stupidity on their parts aside, they said you're a traitor to your own country. You're supporting Putin. You're supporting Russia. You're this. You're that. You're the other thing. So I did an article today where I took that on. And if you want to read that, and you can see, because I read it to Diane before I published it, and I said, do you agree with this? And, we modified it just a little bit, so we're both in total agreement with it. You can see what we really think of Vladimir Putin and what he's doing over there. He's a ruthless, manipulative megalomaniac, okay? But he also outclasses Obama in a chess game every time.
Yes. And he also, Obama is just pure evil. Obama is, no matter which way you twist it, Obama is trying to destroy our country. And Putin, yes, he's trying to rebuild an empire, but he's trying to rebuild something. And even though he's doing it in very bad, nasty, not acceptable ways, he's still trying to rebuild something, whereas Obama is trying to take something down.
It's two different means, two different ends, but Putin is not a nice guy.
No.
He's a former KGB guy. He's not a nice guy. But as we heard from our guest earlier today, Jake Danishevsky, the Ukraine government is not lily white and pure either.
Correct.
Okay? There's a lot of corruption there.
And they need, in their goal to stay independent, they also will do anything to take the blame off themselves, put it on Putin, and turn public opinion against Putin. And one thing Craig and I do, and we said this right from the beginning, we will call people out when they lie or pass out misinformation, no matter what side they're on. We could be against them 100% like we are with Putin, yet when he is unjustly called to task, we will call out the people who are doing it.
We've called out members of our own party.
Yes, we have, and there's more coming. As far as members of our own party. And Craig, I would just like people to know that they really need to read your article tomorrow in the nationalpatriot.com. Because while Craig does invoke his famous snarkiness, he kind of nails some people supposedly on our side, and he does it with humor, but right on point. And he also shows the idiocy of Hillary Clinton. Guys, you've really got to tune in to tomorrow's article. You've got to read it.
I'm taking on Hillary. I'm taking on Pelosi. I'm taking on Obama. And I'm taking on some of the knotheads that claim to be on our side.
And some of them will surprise you.
All in one article. And,
yes.
Read it all the way through. I urge you to read it all the way through and don't ignore the images.
Oh, please do not ignore. Sometimes photos speak louder than words.
And I just got a mental image of the first one in there. I'm not even going to tell people what it is. I'm not even going to say it.
The one you sent me last night had me laughing so hard I was ready to spit my ice cream out.
I found the image last night. I'm not going to tell you what it is, folks. I found the image last night. Diane and I were on Skype together. We're talking about stuff. And I went, oh my God. And she's like, what? And I said, well, now that I've seen it, and what is seen cannot be unseen, I said, you're going to have to look at it too, because I'm not going to be alone with this in my mind for the rest of all time. And so I shot it over to Diane, and she opens it up, and she goes, oh my God.
You see, he was trying to get back at me, folks, because in the meantime, I was looking for pictures for my article that I ran today on the diseases that the illegal children are bringing into our country. And I was just looking at the most horrific pictures of what these children are carrying, and I was sending them to Craig. And I finally decided at the end, I'm not going to exploit these children. It's not their fault that they're sick. It's their fault that their parents were lowlifes to send them on journeys like this. It's our government's fault for not picking them up immediately and turning them back, but I'm not going to exploit the illnesses they have. So some of the stuff I was sending over to Craig, one picture in particular of a disease that actually eats into your body. He said, okay, I'm getting even with you for this. So over came this one particular picture. And guys, it kind of says it all.
Folks, make sure you read Diane's article today in thepatriotfactor.blogspot.com. Don't miss my article tomorrow in thenationalpatriot.com. And we want to thank once again Jake Danishevsky for being just an all-around great guy and giving us so much information on the situation in Ukraine as our guest today. But Diane, we have run out of time, by golly. Today's show, if you missed any part of it, will be rebroadcast tonight at midnight Eastern right here on CPR Worldwide Media. And Saturday, Diane, you and I will be back at 11, from 11 to 1 Eastern time with a whole new live show. But Diane, we're out of time. It's time to say goodbye.
Bye, guys.
Have a great day, folks.
I woke up this morning with a buzz rolling round in my brain. I haven't been drinking, but it feels pretty good just the same. It must be contagious, it looks like it's going around. It's cool once you catch it, can't keep your feet on the ground. This world. From Utah to Texas, Minnesota, Mississippi too. Or Nevada, no matter where you live, this buzz is for you. This world. Let's go! We're plugging in the power, cranking up the sound. coming your direction. It's headed to your town. We're kicking up dust, blowing off steam. Let's get nuts now. Everybody scream. We're gonna rock this country. We're gonna rock this country. Every brown-eyed boy, every blue-eyed girl, gotta really go psycho. Give it a whirl. We're gonna rock this country right out of this world.